You've probably heard of David and Goliath from the Bible. It's about this huge giant, Goliath, who challenges the Israelites. And then this young shepherd named David stepped up and takes him down with just a sling and a stone. It's a classic tale of an underdog overcoming incredible odds. But here's the thing. Goliath wasn't the only big dude in town. He actually had brothers who were giants too. This is the truth behind the origin of the 5 giant brothers of Goliath. Now, when you think of Goliath, you probably imagine this towering figure with all this crazy armor, right? Well, that's pretty accurate. He was a Philistine champion, decked out in brass armor, with a spear so heavy it was like a weaver's beam. The Israelites were terrified of him, and for good reason. The Philistines had been giving them trouble for ages, and Goliath was their top warrior. But then along comes David, this young shepherd who took on Goliath like it's no big deal. So, Goliath's story is pretty well known. But what about his brothers? They don't get as much spotlight, but they were giants too, just like him. And that's where things get interesting. You see, there's a lot of debate about who Goliath and his brothers really were. Some people think they might have been Nephilim, these mythical beings from ancient texts. But according to the Bible, they were descendants of a group called the Anakim, who were known for being giants. Goliath's brothers were no joke either. They were massive dudes with names like Lami and Ishba-Benob. They fought alongside Goliath, trying to take down the Israelites. But in the end, they all met their match at the hands of David and his mighty men. All right, let's break down what it meant to be a champion in those days. Champion wasn't just any old soldier. Nope, they were the cream of the crop, handpicked to represent and defend their army's honor in battles, contests, and one-on-one fights. This wasn't a job for the faint of heart. It required serious guts, skills, and tactical smarts. These champions were like walking symbols of strength, honor, and bravery for their side. They weren't just chosen randomly either. They had to earn their spot with the reputation, combat skills, and the ability to rally the troops. Their main gig? To kick butt and take names, basically. They were tasked with securing victory for their army by taking down the bad guys and striking fear into their enemies. And when things got really heated, champions would often duke it out in single combat against another champion from the opposing side. Now, these showdowns weren't just for show. They could decide the outcome of entire wars, settle disputes, or even determine the fate of prisoners. Now, let's talk about Goliath, the champion of the Philistine army. This dude was a force to be reckoned with. Standing over 9 feet tall, he was like a walking mountain of muscle. He was a giant above the height of 9 feet. That's Goliath for you. And get this, his armor was like something out of a superhero movie. Clad in bronze from head to toe, he was practically invincible. His bronze armor weighing a whopping 125 pounds, and he carried a spear so heavy, it was like swinging a weaver's beam. Plus, he had an armor bearer who lugged around a massive shield to keep him safe from arrows. So yeah, trying to take down Goliath was like trying to knock down a brick wall with a toothpick. Goliath, this massive dude, was like a walking nightmare for the Israelite army. He was so big and well protected that the idea of anyone taking him down seemed downright impossible. Can you imagine being an Israelite soldier facing off against this giant? Goliath wasn't just a big guy, though. He was also a big talker. He'd stand there, taunting the Israelites, daring them to come fight him. And he wasn't just bluffing either. He had a proposition. If anyone from the Israelite side could beat him, the Philistines would become their servants. But if Goliath won, the Israelites would have to serve the Philistines. So, for 40 days straight, nobody dared to take up Goliath's challenge. Even King Saul was too scared to face him. But then along comes David, this young shepherd who's like, "I'll do it." Now, imagine being Saul, looking at this scrawny kid and thinking, "No way." But David was determined. He told Saul about how he'd protected his father's sheep from lions and bears, and how he trusted in the Lord to help him. With just a sling and a stone, David faced off against Goliath, who was furious at the sight of this little guy challenging him. But David wasn't afraid. He knew he had God on his side. So he let that stone fly, hitting Goliath right between the eyes and knocking him down. Then, using Goliath's own sword, David finished the job, beheading the giant. So guess what? The Israelites came out on top. Despite being terrified by Goliath's challenge, David, fueled by his faith in the Lord, took on the giant and won. It was a total victory for the Israelites, and it all started with one brave shepherd boy standing up to a seemingly unbeatable foe. But here's the thing. Goliath wasn't the only giant in town. Nope, he had brothers too, and they were just as huge and intimidating as he was. Now, there's a bit of debate about how they were related, but one thing's for sure, they were all cut from the same giant-sized cloth. And you know what's even crazier? David and his mighty men took them all down. Yep, every last one of Goliath's descendants met their match at the hands of David and his crew. It's all recorded in the scriptures, in case you're curious. There were battles galore, with names like Sabashai and Elhanan going head-to-head with Lami and Ishbi-benob. And get this, Lami, one of Goliath's brothers, is specifically mentioned in the records. Plus, there's a tale of David himself taking on Ishbi-benob, another giant son of the Philistines. In the end, though, it was David and his crew came out on top, taking down every last one of Goliath's kin. So after David took down Goliath, his crew made him a promise. They basically said, "David, buddy, you've done enough. No more battles for you. We can't risk losing the light of Israel." It was like they were saying, "You're too important to us, David. We need you safe." Now, remember Ishbi-benob? He's another one of Goliath's relatives. And after Goliath bit the dust, there were more battles between the Israelites and the Philistines. But this time, Goliath's brothers joined in the fight, probably seeking revenge for their big bro. Ishbi-benob, for example, was determined to take down David, but guess what? God had David's back. One of David's mighty men, Abishai, stepped in and took care of Ishbi-benob. So yeah, Ishbi-benob was definitely part of Goliath's crew. And if you're following all the brothers so far, make sure to like this video and hit that subscribe button for more content like this. Then there's Saph, another relative of Goliath who got taken out by one of David's guys named Sibbecai. And finally, there's this other giant from Gath with a crazy feature. 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot. David's nephew Jonathan was the one who took him down. Now here's where things get interesting. Some people wonder if Goliath and his brothers were Nephilim, you know, those legendary giants from way back when. But the Bible doesn't actually say that. Instead, it hints that Goliath and his crew were more likely Rephites, a fierce group of giants who weren't exactly human, but weren't angels either. And remember Og, the king of Bashan? He was a giant too, but he wasn't called a Nephilim either. So yeah, it's a bit of a mystery, but one thing's for sure, Goliath and his crew were definitely larger than life. Their sheer size and strength would have made them seem like something out of a legend, even back in those ancient days. But hey, nowadays you won't find any giants like them roaming around the earth. Guess David and his crew took care of that, so there you have it. Some fascinating insights into the lesser-known tales from the Bible. But hey, if you're hungry for more little-known truths and untold stories, don't stop here. Click on the next video to uncover even more hidden gems from Christian history.